Greetings, I am the Soviet Warlord, and today I am bringing you another episode of Stakhanov's builds. In this episode, I'll be covering the Tigris. The Tigris is a 10-0 double-barrel shotgun. It requires no mastery rank to use, and it can be bought from the marketplace for 150 platinum, coming with a free Orokin catalyst already installed for supercharged weaponry. Or you can buy the blueprint from the marketplace for 40,000 credits. On top of that, you will require 25,000 additional credits, 3 Orokin cells, 900 circuits, 1,200 salvage, and 1,200 rubido in order to construct this weapon ready for use. Getting down to the base stats of the weapon, the Tigris clocks in with 14 impact, giving this weapon a terrible performance on shielded targets. Its anti-armor capability is also equally poor at 14 as well. Tackling the Grineer becomes difficult very quickly on anything above the beginner's game, but where it shines incredibly is 112 slash damage. This will make mincemeat of infested and all-flesh targets. Don't expect any miracles with the accuracy, seeing as this weapon is a shotgun. It only has 9.1 accuracy. This shotgun only fires 3 pellets per shot, which is extremely low. Its fire rate is 2, however this is negligible. It has an interesting fire rate, or interesting fire pattern, called duplex automatic. This is a system, by firing the first shot, as long as you keep your finger on the trigger, you will not fire the second bullet until you take your finger off of the left mouse button. Taking your finger off will then cause you to fire the second, giving you 2 modes of fire, selective and a double burst, depending on the threat level ahead of you. You only have 2 shots per magazine, as coming with the double barrel state, and its reload is fairly slow at 1.8 seconds. This means you'll have to pick your shots very carefully. Interestingly, the Tigris has a 15% chance of inflicting a status upon your enemy, making this weapon very good for crowd control if you build it correctly. Amazingly, the Tigris does have some endgame potential, and my build is going to focus on making it into a cone of death with a very high damage towards the infested, also making it an ancient hunter as well. Despite its low pellet count, it can still destroy multiple enemies in a single shot and clear out entire rooms with just 2 shots, provided you pick extremely carefully. The Tigris rewards patience, and that is what this build is going to rely on. With this weapon, 3 pellets is just simply not going to cut it. Therefore, it is absolutely essential that you run Hell's Chamber on this weapon. As opposed to a rifle's chance of shooting multiple bullets per burst, it works slightly differently on a shotgun and instead gives you a proportional increase to the number of pellets you fire based on the percentage of Hell's Chamber. This is essentially a guaranteed damage, as opposed to the rifle's chance of extra shots. That means that Hell's Chamber is an absolute must, and there is no reason not to run it on this weapon. Next, we make a very welcome addition to our killing efficiency. With only 2 shots in the chamber before reloading, it's important we make sure that they count. What better way to do that than adding Seeking Force to your weapon? With 2.1 meters of punch through, the number of lives you can take with a single shot increases 7-fold, and massively raises that all-important killing efficiency. With a healthy dose of patience, lining up enemies is easy, and you'll find yourself doing very well with the Tigris if you practice. The Tigris, by default, has a very tight spread. This actually works out to our detriment. In order to further increase our capacity to kill multiple enemies in one blast, and to take advantage of the 7 pellets now conferred to us by Hell's Chamber, we elect Vicious Spread, which, although supposed to be a detriment, widens your pellet spread by 60%, putting meaning into Cone of Death for this shotgun. Also, it continues to amp up your base damage by a whopping 90%. With this wide spread, you'll be able to hit more enemies with a single shot, and with this mentality in mind, it's a perfect modification for the Tigris. If 90% damage wasn't enough, it should come as no surprise that my next choice is Point Blank, stacking it on top for a hefty 180% damage increase from these combined not counting the additional damage added through Hell's Chamber and the pellets conferred to you through it. With no detriments whatsoever, this mod is a very obvious choice. Since the Tigris is heavily anti-infested, this mod, although some may see it as a strange choice, Shredder is actually quite important. With such a statistic skew in favour of slash damage on the Tigris, Shredder's benefit becomes worthwhile, and boosts the base damage, which also has a knock-on effect on elementals too. Since it's an all-round boost to all elementals and your base damage, it makes sense to run this mod. Finally, we add the finishing touches to the Tigris with my last 3 mods, the first of which is Blaze, rounding out the trinity of raw damage mods for a virtually godlike 240% total additional base damage. That 60% conferred to you in Blaze also recursively feeds into the 60% fire damage in the same mod card, and essentially adds 96% fire damage instead of 60 as advertised, an element infested are very weak to. Again, with nothing but positives, it makes a perfect exploitation to the infested weakness. In order to exploit that weakness even further, Incendiary Coat makes a practically molten shotgun, turning your Tigris into the infested's absolute worst nightmare, combining with the 96% fire from Blaze for a total of 186% fire damage, which is also ramped up by your base damage boosting mods. You'll be melting the infested before they even spawn, making an absolutely perfect anti-infested shotgun, and building on the strengths it already had. For the final modification, a choice of 2. If you prefer speedy handling, you may wish to opt for Tactical Pump to bring your reload speed down to 1.25 seconds. However, why not exploit your very high status chance and elect Chilling Grasp as well? 90% freeze damage will mix with your fire damage, granting a massive increase to your killing potential, and also allowing for an explosive blast shotgun with a proc chance, which is useful for defense, for knocking down groups of infested, and for targeting ancients in crowds for a very supportive role when part of a team. The choice is entirely yours. That's my build. A shotgun designed around careful shot placement and maximum killing efficiency, and a massive bias towards destroying the infested. With this boomstick at hand, you can introduce it to your enemies in the safe knowledge that everything is going to die right in front of your eyes as soon as you pull the trigger. As usual though, you will require a significant number of formers in order to get this build to its maximum potential. 5 in total, in fact. However, 5 formers I think is a perfectly reasonable amount to use on this weapon, and is definitely worth the power. If you can persevere with this weapon, you will leave thousands and thousands of enemies dead in your wake. Persevere. Take care of the Tigris, and the Tigris will take care of you. I am the Soviet Warlord, and this has been an episode of Stakhanov's Builds. Tune in again next time where I'll be covering another weapon. Until then, peace out.